This is one of the most famous boxes in entertainment history, and today we're going to do a whole episode dedicated to this little box. Now, we're playing with power right here on Tech Throwback. Hello and welcome to Tech Throwback, the program that shows you techno trends from way back when. I'm your host, Bill Robert, and today we're going to spend an entire episode dedicated to this little box right here, the Nintendo Entertainment System. Coming up today, we'll look at a game enhancer and a game emulator. But first, I know technically this isn't a computer, but for intents and purposes of this episode, we're calling this our senior system. Yes, indeed, that's what this is, one of the most popular video games ever. You may remember, if you were around like I was back in the mid-'80s, in 1983 there was what they call the video game crash of 1983, when companies like Atari went under. Obviously Atari, the main story there was the E.T. video game that kind of took them down. There's a great documentary too, you might want to check it out on Netflix. It's called Game Over, and it talks about that whole thing. And the rumor, which was proven true, that they took a whole bunch of cartridges and just buried them in the desert out in Alamogordo, New Mexico. Turned out to be true, and they dug up old E.T. cartridges. It's pretty good. But anyway, I digress. We're talking about Nintendo here, not Atari. And actually, before we start talking about the Nintendo, let's take a look at the white paper for the Nintendo Entertainment System. The Nintendo Entertainment System, nicknamed the NES, was produced by the Nintendo company in Japan, a company that, before they got into the video game market, was largely known for doing playing cards. The unit actually was launched in 1983 in Japan under the name the Family Computer, or the Famicom. Later it was launched in USA test markets in 1985. It was then released in the latter part of 1986. The basic set retailed for $89.99. That basically gave you the control deck, the controllers, no games. If you wanted a game bundled in, it cost you an extra $10, but you get Super Mario, one of the most popular Nintendo titles ever, bundled in with that. There were other bundled sets that came with different accessories, and those ranged in price depending on the number of accessories bundled, from $149.99 to $399.99. The entire system was based on an 8-bit microcontroller. The unit contains 2 kilobytes of onboard RAM. However, if you've got a game that needs more memory, the game can actually have memory on board and run it in conjunction with the RAM on board the unit. So sometimes if you had a game that needed more memory, it actually brought its own, which is very nice of it. It's connected to TVs via, you can either use the RF connector, just standard, go right into your antenna input and use a channel 3, or it also has baseband audio video output too, so you can plug it into the audio and video inputs if you had those on your TV. A later version of the control deck, called the NES 101, retailed with one controller for $49.99, and actually the deck kind of looked like the prequel of the Super Nintendo, and it was a top loader, and it had more of the rounded edge controls like the Super Nintendo later had. Earlier systems were notorious for problems with the cartridge connections, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Nice thing about this is, where it was the front loader, you could actually stack it in with any of your other stuff if you had an entertainment center. All you did was open the little door here, and then you would stick the cartridge. In fact, let's demo that right now. Let's take, let's say, oh, here we go. This is Blades of Steel, one of my favorite cartridges here. You basically just put it like so, put it in, and then click it down, and then hit the button, and you're playing with power. In addition, they had the audio-video hookups, and let's take a look at those right now. And there they are, right there. That's the audio. Actually, the red is the audio, the yellow is the video. That's the front right there. These 2 ports right here are where your controllers plug in, and then if you look on the back, there are 2 jacks. This was where you plugged in the power adapter, and this right here is where you plugged in the RF cord that went to your TV. Now, it had a special adapter too. It actually came out, you notice this is an RCA here. A lot of RF connectors use the screw-in or push-in F connectors, and there actually was a converter where you plug this in, and then it not only acted as the converter to get from the RCA here to the F connector in your TV, but it acted also as an auto switch where it had a jack on it as well, where you could connect your antenna or your cable connection or whatever. And normally, if this was off, basically the unit would just pass your cable connection right through. But when you turn this on, it would automatically detect the signal and then cut over. So it wasn't like the older video games where you had that switch in the back between TV and computer. This did it automatically. In fact, this is the device of which I speak right here. You see that connects to your TV, your antenna connects here, and then this RCA connector that's in here connects to your game deck. There are some other accessories too. One of the most famous ones is the zapper. Basically, you could play games like Duck Hunt. Operation Wolf also used the zapper. Basically, it was a light gun, and you would shoot at the screen, and it would see the information on the screen and be able to decode the data. Now, an interesting point, this is a note. If you want to play your vintage Nintendo and you have an HD TV, the zapper will not work with an HD TV. There's a difference as far as the timing of the picture and the signal between an HD TV or a flat screen and the older CRT type TVs. So if you've got an old Nintendo and you want to use the zapper for a game like Duck Hunt, you need an old-fashioned CRT TV. So you want to make sure you hang on to those. And if you don't have a CRT TV, talk to your neighbors or talk to somebody. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who would be more than willing to let you take it off their hands. One of the other attachments too, this one was actually very cool. This is called the satellite, which is right here. And basically, first of all, you notice, it's got space for 4 controllers. You can put 4 controllers up here. But where are the wires? No wires. It's wireless. What you do is just connect this, and then you have the other piece of the satellite, which you just connect into the front of the unit here, where the controllers would normally go, like so. So this was on the front, and the nice thing is it basically didn't detract, it kept in with the lines of the deck. So it looked like an extension of the game deck, but it wasn't like some hodgepodge thing. They really thought this out well. And this has got an infrared sensor. This has got an infrared transmitter, and it allows you to send signals back and forth. The main advantages of this, first of all, you can have up to 4 controllers. So if you have a game where you have 4-player options, you can play them here. On the game deck itself, you've only got the 2 stock connections, but on here you've got 4. And the other nice thing about this is too, it's got turbo mode. So if you wanted, normally if you're in a game where you have to punch or do something like that, you basically have to hit one of the buttons repeatedly. Whereas if you hit the turbo button, you just hold it down and it will do it all itself. So that's another fine feature of the satellite. This is an accessory I used to use quite a bit, actually, especially with the 4 controllers and being able to use the turbo, which helps in games like Batman, where unless you've got the turbo punch, you're going to be playing the thing forever. So let's just take this and pull that off there without breaking it into a million pieces here. And this is the stock controller for the Nintendo. This is one of the most iconic images in video gaming history. In fact, recently I was doing a shoot for another show that we do, and one of our camera people, Aaron Harrington, actually had a belt that was just like loop of images of it was these like side by side. So basically his whole belt was Nintendo controllers. It's actually pretty cool because Aaron just is in his first year of college. So it's good to know that in the days of Xbox and this PlayStation 4, which is now out, there's still a lot of people that show some love for the classic Nintendo Entertainment System. All right, and now I've explained enough about the Nintendo Entertainment System. Let's go back to the game room here and see it in action. Well, here we are back in the Tech Throwback game room, and now we're going to put the Nintendo Entertainment System through its paces. There were a ton of games released for the system back in the day, and I don't have, obviously nearly all of them. Some of the classic Nintendo titles I have, Duck Hunt, I've got Super Mario Brothers, actually I have a Nintendo confession to make. Believe it or not, I have never, ever played Super Mario Brothers. I know that was one of the most popular games on the platform. I never played it. I was either always doing sports games or some of the movie tie-in games. In fact, a lot of the games I have here are the movie tie-in games. Games like, for instance, Batman, Robocop, Top Gun, Total Recall, and a couple of my favorites here, Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back. Now, you notice there's one missing here. They never did a Return of the Jedi for this platform because by the time it would have been time to start looking into doing that, they were already coming out with a Super Nintendo. And the Super Nintendo system, 3 of the games there, Super Star Wars, Super Empire Strikes Back, and Super Return of the Jedi, which were all fantastic games, but they never did a Return of the Jedi for this platform, at least not one of which I'm aware. Maybe there's a prototype somewhere, but these are the 2 I know about, so these are the 2 we've got for the system. But tell you what, let's go with a simple one right now. Let's start quick flying game here, Top Gun. You've got the 3 options. You've got the one-player game. You've got the 3 options. You've got the one-player game, the one-player versus game, which is head-to-head, and then the 2-player versus game, in which you can have 2 players going head-to-head. For now, we'll go with the one-player versus game, so it's basically a head-on dogfight between the computer and I, and it'll run you through a whole bunch of different titles, a whole bunch of different pilots, I should say. Up, down, left to right. This fires. This increases speed. All right, here we go. I'm lifting off from the deck of the carrier. Whoosh, here we go. All right, banking right, there we go. Hitting the gas, trying to get him in my sights now. There he is. Whoa, whoa! And you did not just shoot that stuff at me. Back a little bit. By the way, nice thing about this, it doesn't keep track of altitude, so even when you're doing going up and down like this, you will not crash into the ground. Or you can't stall either, which is nice. You cannot stall the aircraft. Okay, let's try swinging them around the other way again. And now swing them back. Whoa, I'm really hitting ground now. And, ooh, I'm inverted. Kind of like the real Top Gun. Except this is public access TV, so I can't do to this pilot what Tom Cruise did in the original Top Gun when he was inverted. He can't foster international relations, shall we say. Wow. I stink at this. But at least I haven't died yet. Whoa! Almost had him. I have you now. No, I don't. Whoa! Okay, well, you get the point there. It's a dogfight game. You can go back and forth, and obviously I'm not being very good at it here. It's actually a good game. I just happen to stink at it at the moment. So we'll just do this for now. Go to another game, actually. Do one of the other movie tie-ins here. Actually, let's go with one of my favorite movie tie-in games, Star Wars. Yeah, I know, not quite the London Symphony Orchestra, but come on, this is cool. All right, are we ready for some action here? As we start to the battle over Tatooine. See there the Rebel blockade runner and the Star Destroyer going after each other. Okay, we get it. All right, now, you are Luke here in his land speeder. Okay, so we're in this first cave here. This is Luke Skywalker. Say hi to everybody, Luke. Hey, everybody. Okay, so now what you have to do is go through this cave, jumping over the rocks, avoiding these little crystal things on the bottom, because they will mess you up, and avoiding the drops of interstellar green death snot, which drip from the top there. Okay. And then, now sometimes you got to make a serial jump. There we go. A couple more. One more. Avoiding the green death snot. And I got my blaster power up. Yay! Okay, now next, there are like 6 or 7 different things you go through, either caves or, in this case, a Jawa sandcrawler, and eventually you get to go through Mos Eisley Spaceport and take on stormtroopers. You have to find Obi-Wan Kenobi so he can give you your father's lightsaber, and then you have to go through and get shields so you can fly in the Millennium Falcon. There's a ton of steps here, and I'm not going to go over the whole thing here because we only have a half hour, but just a little sample of the gameplay of Star Wars on the NES. Let's look for another one we can try here. Let's see. Hey, what about, actually, let's see. Actually, this is one I wanted to try because this one, when this came out, this was probably one of the best graphic games ever for the NES, and I was blown away when I first saw this. So let's try Batman, Return of the Joker. Here we are, Batman, Return of the Joker. Now, the original Batman, the graphics on it were pretty good, but the first time we played this game, we were blown away, my friends and I, by exactly how good these graphics looked at the time. I mean, obviously, this is before the days of 16-bit consoles. Now, right here, you're Batman. Say hi, Batman. Hi, everybody. So what you want to do is this box here contains weapons. Right now, you have just a really crummy little batarang. So you want a better weapon. I'll go with the N. I forget what N stands for, but anyway. Oh, now I'm shooting stars. I got to avoid the dropping mace mine thingies here from the ceiling. And you got to be patient too. Sometimes you jump in ahead of stuff. And so I got to wait for the platforms once again here. Jump and avoid him. Hit him with some stars. Hey, have a face full of stars. There, okay, you're gone. Yay. I don't like having the stars though, so go back to N, which are going to come in handy. And here's where they come in handy. Watch this. You go right around the box, wipe your guy out, and then you actually want to get back to the C weapon for the next stage. And now you get the statues. Bang! Yeah, bye. Bang! Yeah, bye to you too. Bang, there we go. That one's gone too. And now here comes the blimp of doom. See what I mean about the graphics on this? I love the graphics on this game. They're terrific. And now we have a boss level. Batman versus Weird looking Wolfman looking guy. And once again, you get the blimp, you get these little helicopter things coming at you, like, looks like the hat of the guy from the Quisp cereal commercial box. There we go, hi. And basically the power meters show you how you're doing as far, as opposed to your opponent. I don't know about you, but I think I'm gonna win this one. Hey there, take a few more. 2, 1, yeah, bye-bye, adios. And you basically get through that till you battle all of the Joker's baddies. And that's a quick look at Batman, The Return of the Joker. And so this is one of the most famous sports games for the NES. In fact, it's funny, sometimes you'll see on an ESPN 30 for 30 documentary, you'll see NFL pro football players talk about, yeah, he was one of my favorite players and I always had him when I played Tecmo Bowl. But here you choose your play basically, and it shows you depending on what play you want to run, those are the buttons you want to hit. So let's see, if I want to do a pass play, let's go for pass 2 because I want to run a couple of go routes. First down, here we go again. Knocking on the door, here we go. Finally. Yes. Thank you, Mike Renfro. And then after that, you have the really weird extra point. And it's good. Anyway, that's Tecmo Bowl. And I think that pretty much kind of gives you a little sample of some of the games that are available and some of the capabilities of this machine. The Nintendo Entertainment System, once again, one of the biggest game systems of the 80s. In fact, helped pull the U.S. video game industry out of a rut after the video game crash of 1983. And once again, one of the most popular systems to this day, even with newer generations. So good to know it still has a lot of its luster after all these years. And speaking of adding some luster, and we talked about adding some time to your games. Let's add some fun to your games too. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you find some games too challenging or maybe you want to change some of the parameters. Well, there's a device called the Game Genie. It's a game enhancer and it happens to be the subject of our Wayback Playback. This is Game Genie. Game Genie is a game enhancer. Basically, what someone figured out how to do is stick basically a device in between the cartridge and the machine that allows you to change the coding of the program so you can change parameters. In certain cases, you get unlimited lives or enemy hits do no damage. I mean, it's really a pretty interesting thing. And in addition to the Genie itself, basically, they had a subscription service. When you got the Game Genie, you actually got a book of codes of a lot of popular games. But obviously, after the Game Genie came out, there were more games released. Well, they would have people working on new codes for new games, and it was a subscription system. I think it was like $25 a year for a subscription program, and quarterly, you would get these updates of these new different games and things with codes and things like that. So let's see, some of the ones that come up here. Star Trek 25th Anniversary, which I don't have, which I actually would like to have. But Lethal Weapon here, let's see, they've got some for Simpsons games, Thunderbirds, Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu, got to check that one out. Let's see, also Micro Machines. Total Recall, I wonder if they actually have a code for Total Recall that makes the game actually playable. Don't know, but let's just say it's not one of my favorite games. However, when it comes to some of my favorite movie tie-in games, this would have to be it here, Robocop. And Robocop has some really cool Game Genie codes. So let's check this out right now. This is the Game Genie. The first thing you do is you basically take this and stick that in there. So now you have this weird kind of arrangement. And you notice it has almost like this little shark fin thing here. Well, with the Nintendo, obviously, when you push the cartridge in, you then had to push the thing down for it to register. But with everything here, it wouldn't fit in the machine. So what this did, this basically pushed everything down just enough where it got the game deck to register that there was a loaded cartridge. So what we're going to do is take this whole thing right now and load it right in. But before we look at the Game Genie, let's take a look at the Tech Throwback white paper for the Galoob Game Genie. It's called the Game Genie Game Enhancer. It was produced by Louis Galoob Toys Incorporated. It was released in 1991. It retailed for about $50, and the device worked basically by creating changes to the program code of a game. Depending on what code you enter, the running of the program would be altered in a different way. The U.S. release was held up for over a year due to a suit from Nintendo alleging violations of copyright law. The product launch was set for mid-1990, but had to be held off until after a federal district court ruled in favor of Galoob in summer of 1991. The device came with an initial book of codes. Galoob offered a subscription service in which booklets were delivered quarterly with new codes for new games. Subsequent devices were released for SNES games, as well as those on Game Boy, Sega Genesis, and Sega Game Gear. Here's the Game Genie with the cartridge. Pop it right in there. And then what we do is, when you turn the screen on, first thing you get this screen here. This is Game Genie, and it gives you all these letters. So what you do now is you go to the book and get your code. And there are some codes here for Robocop that I want to try. Now, basically, it gives you a whole list of 8-character codes, and the codes have different effect. Infinite time, infinite ammunition, won't take damage from touching enemies, won't take damage here, triple power-ups, maximum time. You can start with different guns. So I think what we're going to do is pick 3 and then enter them in here. So first of all, let's go up to the screen here. And you see, first of all, you notice there's this little hand pointer thingy here. So what I want to do is, basically go through the book here, find the codes I want, and you can add up to 3 codes per game. So we'll start with, let's see, infinite time. We'll do that. So that actually, go with infinite time or infinite ammo. We'll go for infinite ammo. So it's SGOT. So we go to S, and then hit that. There we go. See how it comes out. SGOT. KLIA. So move this here and just enter everything in. Ready to enter your next code. Won't take damage from touching enemies. So we'll do that one. SZKV. So it's S. Whoops. Got to remember when you hit that, when you hit the B button, it blasts your last letter. So there we go. So once again, we'll go with SZKV. SZKV. OTSA. Sounds like an open letter to the airport people. OTSA. Okay, so that's 2. And let's see, how about a, whoops. Nope, I didn't do that, okay. So let's see here. What's the other one I want? Maximum time, well no, I have, yeah, maximum time on battery pickup, so that's TPXN. EILA. And then you hit start, and here's the game starting up now. Now we'll test this out right away because one of the codes I entered in was won't take damage from touching enemies. So theoretically I could have a whole bunch of guys pounding on me, but I shouldn't lose any power or strength if I have it. So we'll start this right now. There's Robocop there. Okay, look at this. These guys are wailing on me. Normally, my power meter down the bottom would be dropping like a rock right now, but it's not. Infinite power. Infinite power basically. And then I just, at my leisure, just hit them. And the motorcycle guy touches me, but once again, no power. And the nice thing about this is, one of the things about this game, you've got the guard dogs here. And once again, in the background, I don't know if you're hearing this or not, but the music, you're basically getting the 8-bit representation of the Basil Polidor's Robocop theme. And the nice thing about not taking hits anytime an enemy touches you is you don't have to do anything with the dogs, because I know the first time I was playing this, that was kind of cruel. It's like, my goodness, you want me to like take out these dogs. That's not nice. These guys all take out. Or, how about you, Mr. Helicopter? Bye-bye. Well, once again, see, I'm getting absolutely wailed on here, but it's not taking anything away. So we go to a boss level here. Now, and this one, bullets won't work on this guy, so I have to punch him. But he obviously gets to punch you a lot too. In fact, here, once again, wham, wham. Now normally that power scale on the bottom would be dropping like a rock, but here it's not doing anything because the Game Genie basically is programming it to not damage me at all. So now I can concentrate on getting my timing right so I can punch this guy and knock him out and move on to the next level, hopefully. There we go. Adios. One of the cool things about the Game Genie is obviously the codes and combinations and possibilities you have of games, and some of them just sound so good. Let me see if I can find the codes here for Operation Wolf, which is one of the war games. Here we go. Operation Wolf. The first code is Infinite Continues. Second code, Never Die. You can just, I guess you still want to have some challenge left of the game. Never Die kind of basically, you can just go and blow through the whole thing with great impunity and not even have any type of consequence at all. I'm not sure if a Never Die code would work, but you know, they have some for you can actually start. Normally when you start the game you have to start on mission one, but these have some of these codes allow you to start a little further into the game because that's one of those games where you don't have passwords. Like some of the games you get passwords where if you remember the password you can start at a certain level where you're left off. Other games you can't do that, so this is nice where if you want to go further in you can do that. There's also things for infinite magazines, infinite grenades, double bullets in each magazine, that's a good code. Heal completely between levels, which is basically one step under Never Die. It's, yeah, I see that now and I have that line from Team America in my head. I promise I will never die. And there you have it, this little item, responsible for all kinds of fun for people, especially those who might have given up on more difficult games or just kind of wanted to change a pace from the games that might have gotten a little stale and boring for them. A lot of hours of entertainment generated by this little device right here, the Game Genie from Galoob, the Game Enhancer. And that's the way we used to compute and play back in the day. That'll do it for this edition of Tech Throwback. I'm Bill Robert. I'll be back next time with the toys and tools that are cool and old school. Till then, have a great day and thanks for watching.